Jujutsu Kaisen's final chapters have the wildest plot twists ever. Not only is Kenjaku possibly alive, but the Culling game is still ongoing with a sequel being set up. Well, that's the copium everyone is huffing, as Yuji and the team have a final mission to go up against a curse user or spirit. And with Jujutsu Kaisen having a major announcement after the final chapter, we are all begging for a sequel. Otherwise, these last 4 chapters in the epilogue, they're absolutely good. We begin with Sumiki's funeral with her gravestone being set up and Shoko telling us that they will cremate their body. And that's about it, folks. Gojo is gone. You can't make this going up like Gege. Bro, at least give us sadness and sorrow like Naruto did with the 3rd Hokage's funeral. That made us cry real manly tears with huge character development for everyone involved. I just don't understand the logic to brush through such an impactful character that shaped the entire story. Unless, of course, there is a sequel being set up.
I'm confused right now, G.
They decide to cremate Sumiki's and I think Gojo's as well. Copium. This is so a situation like Kenjaku taking over his body does not occur again, as the mistake of not getting rid of Geto's after killing him led to disastrous results. So as soon as the funeral is done, Megumi gets a phone call to get to work, and Shoko's character arc finishes as she decides to quit smoking again. Wow! Amazing, right?
Alright, so y'all just seen that corny ass shit.
But this is a trend we will see. All the minor characters are having their story arcs concluded, whilst major plot threads stay alive with the others. Which, let me take another whiff of copium. This means there must be a sequel getting ready, right? Because as of right now, we're not getting any emotional resolution for anything, or learning about the details in depth regarding the important story points. For example, Tengen being found in the remnants of Sukuna means the 4 barriers mentioned in chapter 220 are still on, which stops curse energy leaking. But they are running out of time, as eventually they will fall if they don't find a solution. They quickly want to create countermeasures, but Gakuganji, who was entrusted by Gojo to change things for the better, said, "Relax, you don't need to rush everything." The replacement is still so young, and we see an image of him enjoying family time. So yeah, the problem is fixed with no foreshadowing, no named person, no real explanation.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
But this is a motif that keeps reoccurring in Jujutsu Kaisen's ending, as even in chapter 269, Kusakabe told the others they should live their youth as they want, not tied down by sorcery. So children becoming soldiers is being slowly abolished just like Gojo wanted. This results in the old man Gakuganji claiming he's got this and will figure out a solution. I believe it will finally be using the curse corpse technique Principal Yaga taught him, as these sentient creations like Panda can replenish their own curse energy within 3 months' time, meaning they can uphold Tengen's barriers themselves, replacing the need of a human having to do all the dirty work with the immortality technique and the whole idea of a star plasma vessel being sacrificed, as we know how bad that is with Riko Amanai. Therefore, history won't repeat itself for the worse. But the thing is, I don't get why Gege doesn't just explain that himself and confirm it. Just tell us more, please. Why do I have to make a headcanon? Anyway, that story thread has come to a close. But as we all know, the Culling game is still on, and Maki meets up with the 2 reincarnated people who are still players, Daido and Mio.
Who?
After all, they were a plot device that gave Maki more training with basically a hyperbolic time chamber simple domain that unlocked her true powers.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Maki tells them to get to work as sorcerers and avoid dying with the plan the gang made to get rid of incarnated players. Yuji and Hana possess the power to remove a cursed object from a person, therefore ending their lives, bringing back the innocent person that perished with their incarnation. However, Maki says, "F all that shit. You two can live if you want and kill curses to help society in the meantime in Tokyo. Now the knowledge of cursed spirits have gone public. Remember that whole plot thread about Kenjaku telling the whole world about it? Well, the gang have to find the American soldiers that were taken. They have to get them returned to Japan to get their objects removed and help them understand about cursed energy. The whole idea of everything that has happened has been deemed to be a Tokyo exclusive event and phenomenon to the whole world. Like, bruh, a major story thread was just complete within a panel and hardly any details, bro. You can't make this shit up.
I just can't do it. I can't take this no more, man.
Which leads us to Charles.
Remind me who that is again?
His character comes full circle by finally completing his manga. Now in the past, Charles disliked any sort of criticism of his art, and when he submitted his series to a publisher, he was insulted when he received legitimate advice on where he could improve his art. But now, he believes it's important to get feedback, and guess what? Mine is that, bro, right now, in this part of the story,
We don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
we then see another Who called Rin. He secretly looked down on the bullies. He avoided getting on their bad side for the sake of not becoming a target himself. He pitied this boy we see in chapter 270 as he refused to help him to avoid angering the bullies whilst he was getting jumped. However, Yuji Itadori is the one who stood up for him, beating them all up. So Rin's character arc is finished with him apologizing. But you know what we do care about? It's Takaba and Kenjaku returning.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
This panel alone could save Jujutsu Kaisen's ending by providing us enough copium to believe in part 2. We all had a hard time accepting Kenny's death. It left a bad taste in our mouths. This man lived for over 1,000 years to see his dream come into fruition. He had meticulously planned the merger, made binding vows with elite level sorcerers, planned to eliminate Gojo, captured Tengen, and used the King of Curses Sukuna for his own plan. But then, he died like a dog? But so many possible things are happening here. Inhale some more copium right now, I'm telling ya. Let me address what everyone is thinking. Everything seems like an ass pull and anticlimactic, right? You all have that gut feeling, what is going on with this ending? The last 3 chapters is inexplicable. But is Takaba's death an ass pull? Well, in chapter 243, Takaba being illustrated in a funeral attire seemed as though he was ready to leave for the afterlife. With the end of his Manzai skip with Kenjaku, Takaba reached the pinnacle of his life and was finally satisfied. Kenjaku had to make this happen to beat his ridiculous curse technique that makes his imagination into reality. Now, though Kenjaku did achieve this, the reality is Takaba didn't really die. Kenjaku's head was sliced up before he could take the opportunity to finish him off. The last panel we see of Takaba showcased that he wasn't really injured and his curse technique was still in place. Otherwise, the materialization of his funeral gown would have ceased to exist and he wouldn't literally wake up just to say thanks to Kenjaku. He then says, I want to keep going and I don't want this to end. And later in chapter 249, Kenjaku says something similar, that he was glad that Takaba was the one he got to play with in the end. The whole idea of a comedian was to work on his jokes, and we all know the saying where we say, that joke killed me, or that was so funny I died of laughter. Well, Takaba finally fulfilling his dream Manzai was part of the joke where he pretends to be dead. Also, his whole backstory was about finding a partner that understands his sense of humor. No one believed in him and thought he was a loser. Yet, Kenjaku was correcting Takaba's jokes in the fight to make them even better, explaining why they don't land on the audience and why his jokes don't make sense. Therefore, Kenjaku is the only person able to make Takaba's dream career actually occur, right? But how does that explain Kenjaku being alive? Well, firstly, this is Gege and he's a troll. It may not even be Kenjaku, with Takaba's comedian just creating a friend who looks like him. For example, it could even just be Takaba's friend from university that we saw in chapter 241. He looks exactly like a budget Geto, and given the time skip, his stature and hairstyle might just be the same. However, judging from chapter 270, we see the two having a conversation conversation with Kenny speaking about a new kind of humor that is dark or adult, which Takaba brushes aside, stating, let's hold up on that stuff, and instead talks about his own form of humor. We know Kenjaku lives for the lols, and the whole purpose of creating a new creature with the merger was to see how it will look, wondering if it will have a funny face. Now with this exchange, we learn that this guy is called Tori and is a permanent part of Takaba's duo. However, at this point of time, Takaba stating that they shouldn't go ahead with the adult humor, it could be referring to the merger, which brings us to the theory on how he brought back this dude. In chapter 242, it explained that his technique has a form of soul resonance, which means the soul of the opponent is affected by the technique. There is literally no limit to Takaba's materialization. This means that he can in fact change reality and bring back someone for his own goals. Now of course, Gege hates Gojo. Wouldn't it be funny if Gojo came back? No, it's not funny for Gege because he don't like Gojo. I'm sorry, Gojo fans. I'm sorry. What can I do? He don't like Gojo. He don't like writing about Gojo. He don't like Gojo's powers. He don't like that Gojo's popular. He don't even like drawing Gojo, man.
We do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling.
Now, the new person could just be a figment of his imagination based on Kenjaku's character creating an entirely new person. We know Takaba interacted with Kenny's curse energy and must have been able to puff him into reality. The second possibility is complete copium, and it's that Kenjaku revived on his own, using his technique. Now let's not forget, he is the one who brought back the ancient sorcerers using cursed objects. Whilst he didn't use this on himself, he could have had other contingencies in place if he did die, such as doing a permanent binding vow never to use brain hopping ever again, giving up his immortality to revive himself one last time. But now, as you can see, Gege further illustrates that the cycle of curses and sorcerers is forever going. Higuruma, who condemned himself after murdering everyone with his curse technique, is forgiven by the new Jujutsu Kaisen higher-ups, but to make amends, he is sentenced to a lifetime job as a sorcerer. The whole plot that was raised by Yuki to Geto is still unanswered, which questioned how to remove curses altogether. Geto concluded that if all humans were wiped out, leaving only curse users who could control their energy, then curses wouldn't exist. Yuki alternatively suggested that if curse energy was removed, then it wouldn't leak out to make curses in the first place. Both answers were correct, but nothing was done in the end. Gege will have to come back to this question so his story can have a real conclusion. However, the ship of bombs that never fulfilled their potential is sailing. Yay! You guys are sitting at home with no bitches and body pillows. Get a hold of yourself, people. But for now, we move to Yuji and his team. They are assigned to another case which involved a couple haunted by a curse, where his wife saw her partner as a monster, meaning she is leaking curse energy. Thus, Yuji and the gang can now turn people into sorcerers and help them without any politics bullshit that goes along with it, making for a better world. The gang conclude that it must be due to a Culling game player, reminding us once more that the game is still on. So the conclusion and final chapter must explain the merger, Tengen's barrier, and the whole concept of removing curses altogether. This will all need to be addressed in the next part of Jujutsu Kaisen if there's a sequel, which I'm coping with, because if there isn't, these last 4 chapters are trash. But to I can't even say to enjoy more peak fiction.